Recording.
So in reference to leading through relationship or relational leadership, I want to tell you a story about my experience in leading through relationships. It comes when I was a company commander. I was in charge of about 130 soldiers, and we deployed for 16 months to fight in Afghanistan. And our mission, we were an infantry company, so our mission was to fight in the high mountains and to defeat the enemies of our nation. And right before we deployed, one of the soldiers in my company came to me and into my office, and he brought his wife. And his wife was holding a 1-day-old, very fragile baby. And that soldier looked at me and said, "Sir, I really think that I should stay home for the first 30 days of the deployment. And I need to take care of my wife and my newborn son. If not, they may not do well." And I looked at him and I said, "Sorry, the policy is that if your wife has the baby, that you were there for the birth, then that's it, that you get on the plane. And we're counting on you to do your job in Afghanistan. And I can't afford to leave you back." And they didn't argue with me very much. He was a good soldier, and so he obeyed the order that I gave him. And he got on the plane and he deployed. And so while we were there, we had a very hard mission. We were in a place called the Korengal Valley, and the company that I was leading had the most casualties of any company in the brigade. So out of the 3,000 soldiers we deployed with, our group of 130 had the most casualties. Now, we did a lot of great things. We were extremely successful, and we accomplished many difficult missions high in the mountains that our nation asked us to accomplish. And toward the end of our deployment, we were asked to stay even longer in order to allow a surge of troops to happen in the area, which I agreed to as the commander. And even though we had been really successful, there was grumbling and arguing among my soldiers over time about the extension. And eventually we started to have a pretty significant morale problem, and the soldiers began to refuse to go on patrol and to argue about having to do their mission. And so my boss came out to visit me, and he said, "Jim, I got a question for you. Your company is extremely successful. It's done all the things I've asked it to do, and you've done a great job. But why is it that your soldiers hate you?" And I got to thinking about that, and I said, "Well, sir, it's probably because of the day that I told that soldier that you got to get on the plane, and it's time to let your wife raise that 1-day-old baby. And this is what's expected of you." And from that day forward, I made decisions like that. They were pretty callous. And he said, "I can understand that, and that was the right thing to do. We had to get on the plane. But you could have handled that situation a little differently." And I said, "Really, how? What would you have told me if I asked to let him come back?" And he said, "Well, I would have told you that he had to get on the plane. But you could have maybe been a little more understanding and said, 'Wow, that's really a tough situation that you're in, and what a beautiful baby, and I can really appreciate what a sacrifice this is for your family, but I'm counting on you to do it, and you've got to.'" And so as my boss walked away from that conversation, I kind of realized that I really removed myself from my soldiers so much that I really had no relationship with them. And they were doing what I told them to do, but they weren't motivated internally like I was for that coach that I would throw my body into opposing players repeatedly over and over again. They were doing it because they had to, not because they were inspired. And so we had a few months left in the deployment during that extension, and I tried to make it around to see all my soldiers and talk to them and spend time figuring out just how they were doing and how they were feeling. And it didn't change that we had to accomplish the mission. It didn't change that we had to do difficult things that put people's lives in danger and that were very costly. But it did change the way they thought and felt about the orders I was giving them. And as I reflected on that experience, I really wish that I had begun to build relationships with my soldiers sooner, and that I had spent time nurturing them during the deployment. And so when I think about the question, is it better to be loved or hated? I come away with a very obvious answer. It is much better to be loved by the people that you're leading. That's the end of part 2.
5:12.